Hey Pacers, welcome to week one's mobility challenge. This week we're going to focus on hip mobility. The idea with this challenge is that I want you to run through 1 to 3 sets of these 3 exercises consecutively every single day, Monday through Sunday, in conjunction with your Wednesday and Sunday runs at a minimum to earn your check mark this week. I'm going to start off with, I've got a little chair here. Just grab something, anything that you have in the house that will work. I have a little knee pad for my old lady knees, although you don't need one to have one of these. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my rear foot up on the chair. I'm going to try and get my glute as close to my heel as possible, although some of you may need to start out here. You might have a bit more of a gap here depending on how tight your hip is. But I'm going to try and get that knee underneath my hip, and my front leg is at a nice 90-degree angle. And then from here, I want to make sure that my hips aren't tilting up and down, but that my hips are square. And I'm just going to hold this stretch. I'm getting a nice stretch in through my hip flexor and through the front here. And I'm going to hold this for 30 seconds before I move on to the other side. And then I'm going to switch sides, press up, switch legs. You might have a difference in sides. One side might be tighter than the other. My 30 seconds starts, squaring my hips out. I've got 90 degrees here in the front. I'm up nice and tall. And just letting that hip open up in the hip flexor in through the front of the leg and the front of the hip here. Another 5 seconds, we'll hold it here. Great, and then you're gonna press up. I'm gonna put my chair back. My little knee pad up here. I'm just gonna tilt the camera. We're gonna go into an exercise, a mobility exercise next, that's called supina hip rolling. And I'm gonna show you some different versions of this because as you become better at it, you might change, you might modify the exercise a little bit. So to start off with, I'm going to start a little bit further back because as I do this, I tend to creep forward. So you'll see that I've got a 90-degree angle and I've got flexion on my foot. So my foot isn't loose, it's not pointed. I have flexion on my foot here. Same thing, I've got a 90-degree angle here and I'm flexed here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my hands behind me. It's going to make this a little bit easier and allow for a little more opening in through the front of my hips. And the goal, what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to start with my right leg, or it'll look at your left, how you're looking at my right leg, and I'm going to try to flatten that foot out. So this foot here, I'm going to try to completely flatten before I even lift this leg up. So once this foot is flat, then I'm going to roll this knee in, flexion on my foot, and then I'm going to let this leg fall back down. And I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to try to get this foot flat before I bring this foot up and around. Okay, so we're going to do 10 of these, 5 on each side. If that's a little too easy for you, you can then bring your hands to the side and you're going to sit up a little bit taller. Okay, the one thing I want to mention when you're doing this, so that foot is flat and then I roll through, is the finishing position is flexion on the ankles, but I'm also really squeezing this glute forward. So I'm bringing that pelvis forward, driving in through that hip. So flat foot, roll, and forward. That's 4. Once you've mastered that, you can take your hands off the ground and you can bring your hands up in front of you. I'm still up nice and tall. You'll see I'm sort of creeping forward and through the camera like I mentioned. So now I'm trying to get this foot flat before I let this foot come around. That's 5. I'm squeezing the glute. Flat. And that's 6. The next modification would be to hold a kettlebell here. You can add some weight here in your arms. As long as you can get that foot flat before the other foot comes along, or you can just hold your hands here. That's 8. That's 9. One more. That is 10. So that's your 5 on each side, 10 in total, supina hip rolling. I'm just going to crank the camera up a little more for this last one. Your third exercise in your first hip mobility challenge is we're gonna do reach ups. So we're gonna reach up tall. My feet, you can see, are slightly wider than hip width apart. I'm gonna reach up. I'm gonna come forward with a flat back. Okay, I'm gonna let my hands come down to my feet. I'm gonna pull the bottom of my feet, keeping my back flat. I'm reaching out through the crown of my head. All I'm gonna do is flex my knees and let my elbows come into the center. And I'm gonna resist and press. My heels are now on the ground. I'm gonna release and bring my hands together before I press and I come all the way up. So that's one. That's two. So now we're getting an opening in through your adductors, in through the inside of the hips. You're also gonna get a little bit of work in through the hamstrings when you come forward and you do that forward flexion right here. Keep the back flat, draw up a little bit on the feet, a little bit of pressure on the inside of the knees, and then you're gonna come up. I lost count, but I'm gonna do a little side profile so you can see it as well. So from here, my back is nice and flat, pulling up on my knees, keeping that back flat. I'm sinking in, pressing through the elbows, standing all the way up. I can already feel my hips are starting to open up a little bit, starting to feel better already. This is only my first set. I'm gonna try to do two more sets of these today. But for the challenge, I want you to try to do minimum one set every single day. And you can draw off of Pace Leader, Tara McCann's awesome video, her mentorship video this week, where she talks about easy ways to fit it into your routine and sort of combining it with something that's constant already that you're doing, that you have going on, so that it becomes a habit. So good luck with this, you guys, and have some fun.